Bum.
All right, so I wanted to do an assembly video of these copper 3D hack the pandemic respirator masks. I just wanted to do a live video so it was all real time so you could see exactly how it goes, so it's not like an edited video. You can see any snags or anything I run into. I'll put the link to their original files below. I also will put a link to a modified file for the face mask piece where I found the best way to assemble it was just with a cheap little soldering iron, so we added some extra pieces where you can kind of form this whole thing together and get a nice plastic weld with the soldering iron. So I'm going to do one assembly video using the soldering iron. I figure it's a pretty safe bet that anybody who has a 3D printer probably has a soldering iron as well. I think this is the quickest and the easiest way to assemble the mask, and it also makes the end steps when you're actually fitting it to the wearer a lot easier because the mask is essentially all one piece. I'll also do an assembly video with the hot glue gun. Some of the things you'll need to assemble it. This distance on the mask right here, you're going to do a bend where you're almost folding it like a book along the bridge of the nose. This is about 1 inch, about 25 millimeters. You can use a piece of wood to bend it over it. I found that easy. Or just get a book. Makes it really easy. It's a regular old hair dryer to do some bending. And then the soldering iron, hot glue gun, a scissors to cut some of the elastic. And then when you print it, you'll get these three pieces. You'll get the actual mask, and you'll get the filter cover, and you'll get a little waffle board piece that helps hold the filter in. You can use trim a regular N95 filter to fit in there. You can use cotton makeup pads to fit in there. You can even just use cotton balls and stuff in there just to give a little filter. But let's go ahead with the assembly, and like I said, we're just going to do it live, so any problems that I run into, you'll see them. Then it's not like an edited video. We'll do this first one with the soldering iron, and then we'll do the next one with a hot glue gun. So for some of you people that might not have a soldering iron and not be comfortable with that technique, you can just go ahead and do it with the hot glue gun. So the first thing we are going to do before we do anything is we are going to assemble these pieces. Now it's very important that this stays round while you are forming the shape of the mask. So if you screw this in, it just helps reinforce that, so when you're bending it, it just makes it easier. So I like to assemble this whole thing, and then we'll go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to heat it with a hair dryer, and we're going to make this bend right here. So let me grab my hair dryer. Any deformation you get in this step, it's really just about getting this folded and assembled. You're going to be kind of pressing this to the wearer's face anyway, so if you get any warping or anything, you can, you'll be able to work that out on the fitting steps of it. So it's starting to soften up there. You can see the plastic is starting to get a little pliable. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna take this piece of wood like this, and I'm just going to start to bend these down around that piece of wood. And like I said, you can use like the brim or the spine of a book, like that. It'll do the same thing. This is just a regular piece of a little cut off of 3/4 plywood that works, and we're starting to get that shape that then is going to fit your face. All right, so that's pretty good. We're gonna let that cool so that that shape keeps pretty well. And then the next step is we're gonna bend this down And then these pieces are going to start to fold around the bottom. And this little extra ridge of plastic here, added on, because that's just going to give us a little more substantial plastic and give us a little more material that we can then fill these in when we're welding with the soldering iron. Alright, so I just folded that down. And then this actually went a little far. This we can kind of bend back a little. It's not going to be a huge issue, honestly. Like I said, we're going to go in there and fill that in. So we can try to clean it up a little, but it's really... So this is what we're looking for. We're just trying to get that there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my soldering iron and I'm just going to kind of push this plastic over. And that's why we added this extra plastic on there. This really gives you something that you can dig in, and that's just going to fill all that in. And you're just going to pull that plastic around. And that's essentially, excuse me, that's essentially one piece right there that's going to be solid. So just wait a couple minutes for it to cool. Come in here and clean this up a little bit. Even in a pandemic, take pride in your work. So we'll smooth that out. We'll let that cool, and then we'll go back and we'll form this side. And it only takes a couple seconds. That's already cooled down, and that's basically one piece. So then we'll come back over here. I'll just let that cool there. And this is where this bend gets harder because you have this filter here. Another thing on this modified file is this moved up a little bit so that it makes this bend easier to form. And you can see we're also going to want to, after this we're going to bend that up a little bit. So keeping this cover in really helps keep that shape. So we'll go ahead, let's just attach this together here. And this is just a cheapo soldering iron. You can get, I mean, like I said, anybody who has a 3D printer, they're obviously more into making stuff and experimenting with stuff. So I'd be surprised if somebody has a 3D printer but they don't have a soldering iron. And I found this way easier than using a hot glue gun or some type of adhesive. And it just makes it one solid piece, and you get that instant bond with it, so you're not waiting or holding it for hot glue to dry or other types of adhesive to dry. I mean, if you use some type of CA adhesive with an accelerator, that would work, but again, I don't think you're going to get the same strength out of that bond as you get when you do the process like this. So we're just going to continue down that whole edge. That's looking good. And then we'll go back, and what we're going to do is we're going to bend this. We're just going to heat this a little bit to bring these two edges together. So that's a really easy, and again, you can see how simple this is to do with a soldering iron. Just really speeds up the process and really makes it nice and strong. I'm gonna hold that till it solidifies there. And come back and do this side. Now this side, because of that, again, we want to be careful with this area. So we're gonna really try to focus the heat right down in here. I'm kind of holding the hair dryer angled away from that. All right, so we'll let that cool, and then we'll go back and we'll clean up the front edge of that so it doesn't look so ugly. It'll only take a second. So let's just let that solidify together there, and then we'll go back and this will help strengthen up that seam also. Obviously the soldering iron is hot, so if you're doing this, be careful that you don't touch your fingers. Alright, so phone died on me while I was doing this, but we finished this up. That was right at the end where it died, but this is all welded now. Again, if you want, you can go back and just kind of smooth some of that out. Just looking at some of these parts here, keeping this in, you can see that still is nice and intact and round. And then the next step I just want to show is fitting this. So we're just going to show how to fit this to the face. It is going to be a little warm, it shouldn't get hot, but all you're going to do, and this is where doing the welding with the soldering iron really helps, because this all becomes one piece. So we can heat the whole thing up and make the whole thing really pliable and not worry about this coming apart on us. So the first thing you want to form is this bottom piece here and the wings on the side. So you just want to get those nice and pliable. Get this chin piece nice and pliable. Again, I'm trying to direct the heat away from this filter holder. So let's go ahead. You're going to hold this up and you want to squeeze these in around the cheeks like this. Alright, so this side formed really well. We're going to go back and we're just going to concentrate on this side, and we're going to get this to form. And you don't have to worry about the nose right now because we're going to bend those fins down in the last step. So I can feel here we have a nice seal on the bottom. We have a nice shape right here around the cheek. I'm going to bend this down a little bit. And again, this is where, so you can see that piece is starting to deform there a little bit, but because we use that soldering iron plastic welding technique, it keeps that all as one solid piece, so it works much better than the glue. So this side is done. I'm going to go ahead and heat this side up. So we're going to get this right back on there. That side still looks good. Alright, that's going to have a nice seal. And then the last step is we're just going to adjust these fins. So we'll put this back in place. We'll bend these fins down. The two outside fins go down first. And then I'm going to bend this one in just a tiny more. And then we'll bend that one down on top of it. One nose. So people can hear the directions, honey. So that is folded down over the nose. And then we'll go ahead and we'll heat that and we'll just pinch all those together.
Whoever's watching the video. It's warm.
So we'll make sure those are down. We'll bring this down on top of it. Fold it all together. And you can see that gives you a really nice formed fit. Nice seal around here. Nice seal on the side. And then all we're using to hold them on is just this generic 1-inch. You can loop this through. You can hot glue that together. You can shoot a couple staples through it with a regular old stapler, and then that'll kind of complete the assembly. So I definitely prefer the soldering iron method. It makes everything nice. Just in case you don't have a soldering iron, I will do a hot glue method. But you can see that gives you a really nice fit. You can conform that to any shape. I mean, I've had this on adults all the way down to a 6-year-old here. By keeping this in the whole time, all that, you know, we did a lot of forming and kind of working this thing around. By keeping that screwed in the whole time, it keeps those threads nice. It keeps this working. And then this is regular PLA plastic. So anybody with a 3D printer, you can print this. Another shout out to the guys at copper3d.com, Hack the Pandemic. But there you go. I'll put their original website down there, their original files. I'll link to the modified files if you want to do the soldering technique on the bottom. And then good luck, guys. Stay healthy. And if you get any other maker ideas, certainly share them out with everybody. And hopefully we can, you know, keep tackling this thing together.